Welcome to the Guiding Brands podcast with your host and chief guide, Karen Vick. This is a podcast for service-based small businesses who want to get a handle on their marketing so they can attract and gain new customers. Hey there, family. Welcome to this episode of the Guiding Brands podcast. Today is a special episode because we're going to be talking about a subject matter that a lot of small businesses and even creatives like myself run into very often. And it's that B word, budgeting. Yeah. What and how much do you budget for your marketing expenses? And today, my guest, my friend, Leandra, is gonna shed some light on all of this for us. And I welcome her to the podcast, and I hope that you enjoy the episode. And let's get right into it. So, my friend Leandra Nisbet, who hails from Rapids, Michigan, is the founder and owner of Stingray Advisory Group, a two-time Top Woman Owned Business Award recipient. She believes that all business owners, especially those who are underrepresented, deserve to be empowered, confident, and equipped to make fully informed decisions. She helps small business owners, course creators, and entrepreneurs break free from being overwhelmed and time crunched. So, in Leandra's world, she does a lot of things to help small businesses like yours and mine, succeed through back office operations, managing your finances, and so on. But I am not qualified to tell you all that Leandra actually does and all that she has accomplished. So I'm going to ask her to just share a little bit more about herself and tell us, what she is going to bring to this podcast today.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you for the introduction. So, yes, just to add a little bit more to that. So, my team and I are really passionate about helping entrepreneurs have more clarity as they move forward with their operations. So, the three areas that we provide support in are around helping our clients improve their relationship with their numbers, be more empowered around their finances so they can make fully informed decisions, being able to find and engage with the right audience effectively and efficiently, and then also create actionable plans for growth. Sometimes I feel like in our space, it's so easy, especially as the business owners, to be overwhelmed by all the decisions that we have to make, by all of the moving parts of running a business. And most of our clients, as I feel like in this space in general, have gone into business to do something that they're passionate about, something that they love doing, not necessarily to run and operate a business. That's the second side part that came along with moving forward in their journey. So we really step in to help them feel more confident and have added clarity as they work within their businesses, and so that they can move forward the best way possible.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, what I heard in the midst of your statement there was a line from E Myth, or the basic premise behind the book E Myth Revisited, where we as entrepreneurs enter into business thinking that what, I can do this better than my boss, I can do this better than everybody else out there, so I'm going to open up a shop, and then comes all the things that goes along with it, and none smaller than I shouldn't say smaller, none bigger than budget. Managing a budget for your business, and specifically today we're going to talk about your marketing budget. So, my the first thing that I want to know, Leandra, is why is it that a marketing budget is so important to small businesses? What's the importance of having one?
To me, having a budget in general is important, and a marketing budget is a subset of that. So I think there's so much power and information that comes from data and numbers. And so knowing your numbers, being fully prepared, and being able to be more proactive when it comes to making decisions in your business versus reactive is essential. So within that, when you're thinking about creating a budget, I really like to have people think about this really as just a roadmap. It's something where
Hmm.
you can use to help guide your path, to help you with making decisions as opportunities arise. Maybe you're presented with an opportunity to launch a new product or service. Well, you can look at your budget if you've created one to say, well, do we have the resources for that? How much do we have in our advertising or marketing budget to actually help launch and support that? With any other decisions that you're making, it's really looking at what are the resources that you have. Time and money are two of the biggest resources and assets that a business owner can have. So using a budget as a tool that you have at your disposal to help you decide how to move forward is just a great way to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I think, and I've been in so many conversations with other small business owners, whether in a training group or a coaching session or a course that I've been a part of. And that's often the number one question, how much do I spend? Is it a percentage? Is it a fixed amount? How much do I put aside for social media marketing, ads, blah blah blah. It runs the gamut, and it can be daunting because you're spending money towards something that's not necessarily tangible, and you don't know what the end result is going to be. So you're concerned about your ROI and all of this good stuff, and you're thinking, I only have a finite amount of money right now, and how is that going to be beneficial to me if I take 50% of what I have coming in to put towards my budget, or 5%, whatever. It just seems like a big number to us when we're planning our budget. But I like that you said we should be proactive versus reactive. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that looks like, for a small business owner when you just hone in on the being proactive versus reactive?
Sure. So, what I mean by being proactive versus reactive, especially if you've already been in business for any period of time, you can look back at your history. You can use, I recommend that you're creating an annual budget for your business, and within that, obviously, your marketing budget as well. So, you can look at your historical performance and say, well, how much revenue, how many sales did we bring in? How much were we spending in these respective areas? How much were our expenses? How much was our labor and our VA or our virtual assistant, whomever is helping support us in our business, our software cost. Similarly, how much should we invest in marketing? And I don't want to get too detailed into the analytics and the things that you can be
Hmm.
tracking within that, but obviously there's a lot that goes into that. Um, but you can use that information to then proactively say, okay, well, here's where I am today. Here are the goals that I have for my business. We want to increase our revenue by this percentage or this dollar amount. We want to launch this new offer. Well, look at your numbers and then say, well, how can it help me get there? If we're launching
Hmm.
this new product, here's how much we expect it to bring in. Maybe to your point and to your question about how much to budget, you're saying, well, I'm comfortable budgeting 5% of what I'm expected to bring in for this as helping it get off the ground for marketing and promoting it.
I see.
um, those types of things can help you with making informed decisions. So then as you're moving forward, you can say, okay, well, we're entering the second quarter and we're going to be launching this marketing campaign. Let me look at my budget. Here's what we have allocated for this quarter or this month. And let me see what channels we have access to. What resources do we have? How do we want to reach our audience? Are we running, you know, ads online? Are we sending mailers? What are we doing? Are we going to a
Hmm.
trade show and we want to pay for more
A
exposure with our
booth.
booth,
Hmm.
etc.? Let me look at my budget, as opposed to saying, oh, well, we really want this launch. We're not seeing any sales. I don't know what to do. Let me just start running some ads. That to me is a reactionary decision. You are just going into it more out of um, a fear, or you're saying like, well, something needs to be working or doing better than it is. You're not actually being strategic with the decision that you're making and figuring out what do we have, what history has told us, and what we actually think we can be doing here to have a fully fleshed out plan.
Hmm. And in you spoke about an existing business. I work with often a lot of people who are starting something new, brand new. What do? You don't have anything historical. you don't have any data, to fall back on. So do you have any suggestions for that small business owner that's, or that person that's thinking about starting something, they're a new business owner?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few things. I think this is a great question. So, one, I would still highly recommend early stage clients and business owners that we're working with to create a budget because it's hard to plan for something if you don't kind of understand what the framework or the guardrails are.
Hmm.
That to me is also very reactionary. You don't know how much you expect to bring in for sales, you don't know how much your expenses are going to be for a given month. So, you don't know how much minimally you need to bring into your business to break even or cover all of your costs. Um, as you're thinking about how much to invest for marketing, so one opportunity or idea here, leverage your resources. So, for example, there's a lot of market research that's available. So, you can look at industry standards, you can look at benchmarks, you can see what other businesses of your size, your scale, your industry are doing, what is publicly available. I mean, things that are reported. Um, to say what can I compare myself to, what can I expect as I'm building and growing a business, where can I work up to. And then some of it also needs to come back to what you're comfortable with. You don't need to invest 10% of your sales into a marketing budget if that's not where you're comfortable. Maybe you say, well, 2% sounds good for me. I just
Hmm.
want to get something established. I want to have consistency around this. I want to know that I do have resources available. So as opportunities arise, I can invest in something. But then also, don't be afraid to stick to your budget. Don't get sucked into this shiny object syndrome because this new great thing comes up and you just all of a sudden completely blow your budget and spend, $2,000 on something that you weren't even planning for, didn't know about a week ago, just because it came up. Still think about the intentionality with the decisions that you're making. Does it really work for your business? Maybe it doesn't work now, but maybe it's something that you can budget or plan for in the future. So
Hmm.
don't always think that you need to do the newest, the latest, the greatest for a fast return. You know, Slow and steady
Yeah.
sometimes is best to win the race, especially early stage when you don't have the validation, the consistent cash flow, etc., for those types of decisions.
Hmm. Great advice, and I've been guilty. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been guilty of that shiny object syndrome. Before we started our conversation, we were talking about me, loving tech and loving to test things out, and that's the trap for me. The technology and wanting to test things. But you can do that, but you need to be mindful of what your budget, what you have allocated for these things. Maybe, yeah, you put aside some money for that. I hear you saying that, so that's awesome. So, Leandra, you and your team just launched a new budgeting tool, for small businesses, that centers around this idea of budgeting, for your marketing. What inspired you to do this?
Yeah, so there are a lot of challenges that small business owners and early stage entrepreneurs face when it comes to creating budgets, figuring out how to actually start. So, my team and I really wanted to create something that's approachable to help simplify the process, to help people understand how to get started, what are some things that they can be tracking, and provide a visual, interactive element and tool for doing that. So, the resource that we've developed is a marketing budget planner and tracker, which will allow people to really be able to easily document, what outreach channels are you using. So, to a certain extent, it's helping you think about your strategy as well, because you're saying, am I putting this out on my website, or are these activities I'm budgeting for on social media? Is it advertising, etc.? And then you can create monthly budgets for each of the respective outreach channels that you're using. And what I think is one of the most important parts that sometimes gets missed is the follow up, because we
Mm,
want people to actually be going back in and tracking their expenses. So then you can have more clarity to say, did we come in over budget? Were we under budget? Is that something you can put in notes to say, is that something we expect to continue? Or was that a fluke? So then you could maybe be making decisions about modifying your budget as you go forward. And it gives you that historical data to start keeping up with. And you can be looking at tracking, to compare how you are doing compared to your monthly, quarterly, and annual budgets.
wow. Wow, that sounds very comprehensive. I haven't seen it myself. So, you're telling me that a small business owner will be able to enter their historical data, their what they've spent before. Is that something that they'll be able to enter, or is it like a starting point? So this is what we're budgeting for the year, and
It
then
helps
you
you
can
get
actually
started.
then. I see. I see.
Yes. So
Okay.
you could go in and say, here's what we're planning for the year. And then
I
it will be
see.
broken down for your quarters, for the months. And then you can go back in and actually track as you are spending throughout the year. Ideally, this
Hmm.
is something that you're consistently updating. But
Yes.
going in to say, okay, the month is over. Here's how our spending turned out last month. Were we over under budget? And then how are we looking toward the quarter? Because, for example, if you're over budget for the month, you might say, well, I just want to reallocate. We're still good for the quarter. We're on trend. We're on pace for that.
Hmm.
Or it's a way to look at reallocating funds. Maybe you're moving it from a different bucket or something along those lines. But I think it's really important to keep your numbers top of mind because, as with anything, out of sight, out of mind. If you're not thinking
Right.
about it, that's when it can be really easy to overspend or not really be consistent with your planning and outreach because you're not keeping up with what's happening.
Right. Makes so much sense. And do you? I know in your work, you work with a lot of entrepreneurs online. You have a Facebook group. You have a series of workshops that you host throughout the year, and I imagine that this has probably been a question that has come up over the over the years with your business clients that you've been working with, and so um, I'm sure this prompted you to do this. Yeah, as a problem solver, as someone who wants to help, people gain access to tools and resources that are going to help them in their business. So I'm thankful for that, and I am going to get it. And I don't know if you want to share the price right now, the cost of it right now. I will be sharing the details of how to actually access it in the show notes for those of you that are listening today. You'll be able to see it in the show notes. But what it's
I
a
don't mind
nominal
sharing.
cost at the moment, right?
Hey, small business owner. Are you having a hard time figuring out how to budget your marketing? Well, today's your lucky day. The Stingray Advisory Group Budget Planner is just what you need. With this simple yet effective tool, you can set your marketing budget, track your spending, and make more informed decisions about that website upgrade or marketing campaign you've been considering. Visit budget.guidingbrands.com and stop guessing about your budget today.
Yes, it's a $12 US resource.
Wow.
So we
Wow.
definitely don't want, I mean, I really love being able to educate and empower people. I don't want people to ever feel like their numbers need to be a hindrance or a deterrent or something where you just kind of put blinders on and keep going in your business.
Hmm.
So we really want things to be accessible and not have cost to be a deterrent. So yeah, this is definitely a great resource and a
Wonderful.
good starting point for people entering into getting started with budgeting for the
Yeah.
first time, trying to make it more approachable and interactive. So yeah,
Wonderful.
hopefully this will be a great
Wonderful.
jumping off point.
Awesome. And we'll have all of Leandra's resources and workshop info and all of the good things in the show notes. Um, so, how does your marketing budget tool simplify? Well, we actually went over that already. I'm sorry, I'm reading from my notes. Um, let's see. Can you walk us through the key components of or steps involved in creating an effective marketing budget? So you touched on that a little bit, but what I want to hear is what's the first thing that a small business owner should do, when thinking about this? What's the very next thing that someone listening to this podcast should go away and do?
Well, I think one of the biggest things to think about when you're trying to establish a marketing budget is thinking about your overall marketing strategy. So think about, who is your ideal audience? Where are they going to be found? I think one of the challenges and things that tends to come up is we all want to try to do so many things and we want to be everywhere and we want to take on as much as we can. And sometimes it's really best to actually simplify and niche down. And so immediately thinking that you need to be on every social media platform, you need to run ads on every platform, all of those things can be very overwhelming and costly at the end of the day. If nothing else, it's costing you time, but it's also probably costing you money to keep up with as well. So thinking about being strategic with where do you actually want to show up, where is your audience going to find you and engage with you? And then what are the opportunities that you have there? Because even within a marketing strategy, and I'll take that a step higher than your budget, because I encourage people to think about both organic and paid options when they're creating their marketing strategy. So, not everything, I mean, there's the cost of time, which is invaluable. But at the same time, not everything necessarily needs to come down to a monetary investment when you're thinking about marketing your business. Maybe
Mhm.
there are things that you can do for just using organic social media. If you're not 100% sure what type of engagement you're going to have on Meta, test that. Maybe that's an opportunity. And then if you're starting to see results, maybe you do decide that is a great place to be running ads. My audience is here. So then you can create your budget for that platform. But you also then want to start be cognizant of what is the return on this? What is the
Mhm.
path that I'm trying to take the audience or my traffic through? Um, if I'm engaging with them here and then I'm directing them on my social media to a landing page for an offer, and then from there I have a upsell offer on the back end of that, or they're entering an email sequence where I'm offering something else. What are the conversions on those things? Because then as
Mhm.
you're shaping a marketing budget, as we're working with someone, it can be easier to determine and define, well, how much are you willing to pay for each lead? Because you then know, okay, well, they're going to buy this offer that's $25. And then afterwards, I tend to have a 15% conversion rate on my upsell offer, which is another, I don't know, $10. So
Mhm.
just as a simple math, it's $35 for the value of that lead. So then are
Right.
you willing to pay $7 for that? Are you willing to pay
Mhm.
20% for that?
Right. Exactly.
So I
Mhm.
mean, personally, all I would spend $7 to make 35.
Exactly. Exactly.
So sometimes I think it's easier if you start to break down the numbers, if you start to think about what is the progression, what is actually happening, what is the result of this, the return on my investment, because
Mhm.
then it will make it easier to determine how much are you willing to invest in the marketing to get that result that you're looking for.
Wonderful. I love that you started with talking about knowing who you're targeting, where they are, and the fact that you don't need to be everywhere. I was about to raise my hand and say preach because because that's a mantra that we believe in here at Guiding Brands, and we talked about in the earlier episodes of the podcast. And for those of you that are new to the podcast, please go back to the first 5 episodes where we talk about some foundational things relating to your marketing. And one of them is key is knowing who your audience is. And another is knowing, where they are. What is it that you want to say to them? And having a plan, creating a goal for yourself, and knowing that you don't, especially if you're brand new to this, you don't have to do all the things.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, us marketers, we get excited over all of the new things and all the things that could possibly work for your business. And you need to be discerning. Think about what we're sharing with you, and a good marketer will actually provide you with options so that you can make the best decision for your business. You don't have to do all the things all at once. And as Leandra said, slow goes it, just take your time and move through the process. Is there anything in particular that each business group should be considering? Or is this good for everybody? These thoughts that you're sharing with us.
Well, I would definitely say the framework and the foundation of understanding and having clarity around who your audience is and where they are going, where you can find them, where they will find and engage with you is going to be essential regardless of the industry you're in.
Hmm.
But I would also say that as you think about the type of business that you're in, you also want to be cognizant of the turnaround timing for converting a potential client or lead into a customer or client, because that will vary. If you're in a
Hmm.
business to consumer business, retail, restaurant, you're going to have a much faster turnaround time for conversions, most likely. I mean, you can do, if you have a really strong Google business profile and reviews and you're really showing up on search and people are looking for restaurant in my area, and they're hungry and you want coffee, boom, you show up, you're there, you're accessible, and you can go in, or online ordering and it's pizza, etc. Versus if you're a service-based business, you probably will need to have more touch points. So what I mean by that is that somebody will need to see your messaging most likely numerous times more than something where it can be an impulse buy,
Mm-hmm.
where they need to consider what the offer is. They need to have more exposure to you, to your message, to your approach. The repetition, it's used to be said that people need to see your message 7 times before they actually take action on it. So think of that as a rule of thumb, especially when you're thinking about your marketing, your outreach, and even potentially your budget. So where are you showing up? What might those 7 touch points be? Are they seeing, your social media post? Are they reading a blog post that you've put out? Are they seeing your business profile? Are they seeing your Yelp review? Are they seeing your ad? How are they finding and engaging with you?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not necessarily a one and done. And so thinking specifically and strategically about the type of business that you have, the offer that you're selling, and realizing that it's not necessarily going to be an overnight, like you show up and it's a conversion, because
Mm-hmm.
that's just really not how people operate. And so sometimes patience and consistency is going to be the key with that. So that I would say is one of the biggest things when I think about various industries and offers, is thinking about that timeline and what the
Mm-hmm.
process looks like.
Wonderful. I love your answer because again, this is the heart of how we actually approach our marketing. And it's often a lot of clients will think that they should have immediate response. Oftentimes it's a long term play. So I have a client in Jamaica. She's actually a doctor. She has a medical practice, and in Jamaica in December, business is very slow for everybody. Things slow down, and even doctors' offices. People don't do a lot. It's as if the country is on slow mo, or they've just shut down almost. And so you will see her numbers actually dip, and then in January, they spike again because of the fact that, this is happening. So you need to be aware of what's happening in your industry, time of year, all the factors that can contribute to that. And don't panic when you see, a small hiccup in your business. Okay. So, Leandra, I had all these questions prepared, and I'm going to ask you all these questions, but I think we actually got through just about everything just by us having this conversation, which is what I love. This is what I want this podcast to be. I want my guests to come on and be able to, you know, answer the questions that a lot of business owners and their marketers are actually asking themselves every day, and may not even know the questions to ask, but you've actually done that in talking about, you know, the steps to take to making a budget, the things that they need to be considering when doing so, um, tracking, the key metrics that they need to be tracking, things like that, and the tool that you and your team have developed. Can you share with us some of the other programs or offerings that Stingray um, provides to small businesses? And not just in Michigan, by the way. Leandra reaches, across the globe, I am going to say, because she does a lot of her work online. So if you're thinking about talking with her and you're in Florida and she's in Michigan, reach out to her. She can help. She and her team can help. So share with us some of the things that you guys do,
Sure.
please.
So we definitely do one-on-one engagements to support our clients. So within this marketing space, being able to actually help with looking at identifying your target client and audience, being able to create buyer personas, being able to actually help with creating what your marketing strategy is, and being able to not only create the strategy, but help implement it.
Hmm.
And being able to help with that consistency, tracking analytics, being able to see how are you performing and what are some of those key changes or decisions that you should be making along the way. Because as you know, it's an iterative process. It's not a one and done.
Hmm.
Um, Additionally, within the financial management space, being able to handle our clients' bookkeeping, helping to really educate and empower them around their numbers. We do have a lot of digital content and resources such as the calculator and the template, and other tools like that to help make numbers more approachable, especially for early stage business owners who maybe aren't quite ready for a bookkeeping platform yet. There are several accounting platforms that we are, certified and partners with to help people who are in that space. But we understand a lot of people, you don't start there. So
Hmm.
that's why we've created a lot of the resources that we're developing now and will continue to develop as that entry point so that people don't just put the numbers on the back burner. At least you
Hmm.
still have a starting point, and then you can continue to build up and expand from there.
Okay.
And then we do also have a private Facebook group and community and a membership group that is about to launch for people
Wow.
who would like more interaction and engagement with myself and our entire team to have additional insights, support, tech assistance, all of the things to help with the strategy and growth of their business.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So, where can, people find you? If you can share, website, social media handles, how can they find
Yes.
you?
Yeah, I can definitely share all of that so that you can put it into the show notes. But I would say our website is a great place to start, which is stingrayadvisorygroup.com. And we are very active on all of the social, well, I shouldn't say all, the primary social media platforms where our clients are. Um, and what we actually tend to find with that is Instagram and LinkedIn, and also Facebook.
Awesome. Wonderful. Wonderful. So I consider myself the chief guide at Guiding Brands, and all the guests on my podcast are actually guides themselves. So, putting on that guide cap, is there any one thing that you would, or piece of advice that you would give the audience today as they go forward? If there's a trend happening, something that you're seeing out there that you would want to impart to them, please be my guest. Share.
Oh, there are so many things that come to mind there. So, um, especially because I also, like you, love technology. So my mind automatically fired on a lot of things there. But what I would actually say is going to be different than that. What I would say is start small.
Hmm.
Don't be afraid to take action. I think sometimes it's common for us to get in our own way and in our own heads and talk ourselves out of decisions or opportunities or being able to say, I can't improve what I'm doing because,
Hmm.
well, I'm not a numbers person, or the numbers confuse me, or it's going to take me too much time for that, or, whatever it may be. And I would challenge you to get out of your own way when you hear those voices and those things come up and say, even if I take a small step, it's still progress. More of kind of like the atomic habits approach. Like do something
Hmm.
small, but keep doing it and keep moving
Hmm.
forward because every small step you take today is going to continue to help you in the long run and they will compound. So, what is that one thing for you that maybe is the hang up? Something that you're saying like, I can't do that, or I shouldn't do that, or I don't know if I'm ready for that, and push yourself. So maybe it's overwhelming to think of, well, I'm going to look at my numbers every month or reconcile my books at the end of every month. No, maybe I'm going to start by putting on my calendar to check my bank account every Friday.
Hmm.
It's starting to build a relationship with your numbers. It's starting to get in the habit of doing that. Or maybe you're saying, oh, it's going to be really complicated to keep tracking my analytics all the time. Well, maybe it's similarly. On Monday, I'm going to go in and look at what our traffic was to our website
Hmm.
and put it on the calendar, put it on your planner, wherever it is that you keep your information, because that's what builds the habits and helps you create that consistency. And it also, I'm confident, will show you that it's not as daunting as you might think before you start doing it. And so,
Thank you for
whatever
that.
steps you can take to make it more approachable and actionable, yeah, I think that will
Yeah.
definitely yield you returns in the long run.
That's wonderful advice, especially for someone who is averse to Excel and numbers and all the things relating to finances. Yes, I am one of those that runs and hides from it. But I that's the advice that you've given. I've found for myself to be helpful as well. Just small steps. Don't try to eat the entire elephant all at once. Take
Mhm.
one bite at a time. This has been um, very, let's see, what's the word that I want to use? Awesome. I don't know. It's just been eye opening and revealing, and I hope that the audience actually feels the same way because you articulated some of the things that we've tried to express to clients when talking about budget, in terms of, just how to approach it in such a clear and meaningful way that I'm sure that, we'll all benefit from. And hopefully the budgeting tool, the marketing budgeting tool that will be linked in the show notes, our guests will actually take advantage of and utilize. $12 is nominal. Budget for it. And know that this $12 will be well spent, and it will help you take those small steps to seeing your business grow and take on the life and shape that you want it to. Leandra, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for being a part of this thing that we're trying to do here at Guiding Brands, with just helping small businesses. And we're kindred souls in our desire to wanting to help small businesses. So thank you so much. And we'll be back. We'll have you back on again at some point where we can talk further about some of the other programs that you have coming up. Thank
I
you.
would love it. Well, thank you so
All
much for
right.
having me. Happy to be here.
Yes. That's all for this episode of the Guiding Brands podcast. I look forward to sharing with you again next week, so please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Thank you, and bye for now.